Welcome to Aloha Friday, where the vibes are always fun. With Dee and Hinano, the show has just begun. The Real Uncommon Podcast, where the stories unfold. It's time to talk story on this YouTube show. Aloha Friday, it's our kind of night. With laughter and stories, the chat just feels right. With Dee and Hinano, they bring us the vibe. On the Real Uncommon Podcast, let's take this ride. Chatting, laughing, sharing and singing, it's our kind of place. With wisdom, fun and music strung, the Aloha spirit flows through this space. Tune in weekly for tales both wild and free. With Dee and Hinano, it's meant to be. The Aloha spirit spreads far and wide. Kick back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Aloha Friday, it's our kind of night, where the stars align and everything feels right. Dee and Hinano, they bring the Aloha cheer. On the Real Uncommon Podcast, you'll find your place here. So come join the party from afar or nearby. Aloha Friday, where we laugh and cry. With the Real Uncommon Podcast, we ride through the night. Aloha Friday, shining bright like a light.
Happy Aloha Friday, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Real Uncommon Podcast. This is our 143rd live stream. Happy Aloha Friday to everyone. It is the weekend and it's time to relax and chill. But before we do that, let's get Dee into the studio. Dee, how are you?
Hi. Hello, everybody. Can you hear me okay?
You're coming in loud and clear, Dee.
Loud and clear. Happy Aloha Friday. It's Aloha Friday. No work till Monday. Do. You see
We
that?
got to start off very
to
corny
move out.
first. We got to do it that way, right? So,
How are you, Hinano? Happy Aloha Friday to you.
I'm good. Today was a good day. I'm well rested. I apologize for the people who watched our live stream on Tuesday. I told Dee I want to delete that live stream because I was tired and I really looked like I was irritable. So I want to apologize to the audience for that. But I'm doing really great today. It is the weekend. It's Friday. I do not work tomorrow. Bro, you can take a break as well. And it's going to be really good. So yeah. Don't know what I'm going to do with myself tomorrow. We'll see what happens. Maybe I'll just spend a lot of time with our little baby boy. How are you doing, Dee?
Yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah, I'm doing fine too. Nice day. The weather has lightened up a little bit. It was raining for the past few days, but now today we had some sun. So yeah, it's a better day today. And yeah, I'm excited to talk story with our special guest today. I see some people in the chats. Hello, chats. And yeah, let's get this party started.
All right. And who do we have today in the studio with us, Dee?
Oh, we have someone that you guys have all seen and probably met in real life. but we have the one and only. That was so corny.
See what you did there.
The one and only OMI-Juan.
Let's go.
OMI-Juan, he's the man. Twitter space co-host with a plan. From his AI pictures near and far. For the THON Mafia, he's the star. Oh, OMI-Juan, OMI-Juan, OMI-Juan. Oh, OMI-Juan, OMI-Juan, OMI-Juan.
What's up, OMI-Juan?
Hello.
Hey, I love that intro. That was perfect. I love it. I'm
Let's
so excited to be
go.
here.
Oh, how are you, man? Happy Aloha Friday to
I,
you.
Aloha Friday to you too, D. I love the little dance. I don't know. I was trying to see if I could do it, but
It's like
might have to work on
tiny
my moves a little
bubbles.
bit.
No, that was a terrible rendition that I did. Don't do what I did. But
That
thank
was
you
Oh
good.
for
man, yeah,
joining us. Yeah,
yeah. I'm excited. Friday, the weekend. Let's go.
let's go. Am
Let's
I
go
lagging?
indeed. I think from my perspective, the camera is lagging a little bit, but I don't know how you guys look. Everything looks okay most of the time from my end, but I'm the guy running the stream, so
Yeah.
it looks okay. You both look okay. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, I
Yep.
can hear you okay. I just I thought there was a delay and it'll be like the dubbed like Korean shows where you're like da da talking and then you're waiting for them to like come
Well,
on.
I like to joke around that we are below the basement of Sleepin's basement, so we are very, very cheap here. The whole entire podcast is held together by baling wire and some duct tape. So if we have some lag, guys, that's just the production value right there. But Omi-Wan, good to see you, man. Happy Aloha Friday, and thank you for joining us. I know it's semi late where you are right now, but how are you and how what you going to be doing this weekend, man?
Oh man, it's been a busy last few days, but looking forward to the weekend for sure. Yesterday with Halloween, it was busy. Over here where I'm at right now, they always do it big, so the neighborhood all gets together and tons of kids coming through, and we usually always run out of candy. So it was a great time last night, and then busy with the spaces too. Did THON last night, and then earlier today I was out in LA, like celebrating the Dodgers championship, and I'm here with you guys now. So it's just been a
Nice.
crazy 48 hours, but I'm super excited to be here and can't wait to get into it.
Wow, this guy's burning the midnight oil right here. I love it, man.
I
I love
know.
it. So it's kind of similar. So yesterday was Halloween for us as well. And what happens for us every year is we go to this suburb and they close the entire block. And then there's a huge block party. And so it starts like around 5 o'clock for us. And it's nice. We get to hang out our friends and people open up their homes. Some people like dress their house. Like there was a house like that was like the theme of Willy Wonka's chocolate factory. So that was pretty cool. They had games for the kids, hot dog and popcorn for everybody that was walking past by. You got like donut vendors, you got food vendors, peanut vendors, and it was a really good environment for the kids. Usually where we live, there's not a lot of kids in our neighborhood, so we usually buy a bowl and we'll see if anybody comes. But yeah, it was a fun night. It rained a little bit on us, but yeah, we had a good time. So
Yeah, we made it.
Sounds very Hawaii.
Yeah, we had the in-laws bought a bowl of candy, but it was like
it's not
for in
candy.
my opinion, it's not the ones that you want.
Yeah, no,
So
we were the raisin house
yeah,
last night.
we would like the healthy gummy the gummy bears, like the healthier version of it.
The Mott's.
Yeah, I was like, oh my gosh, what is this shit? But I was like, it was a full bowl when we left. We came back, it was still a full bowl. Yeah, that's how many
Oh
kids
man,
we had come by our house.
So my
that's
parents
too
live with
funny.
me, right? And so like we usually always buy the candy for them so they don't have to do that. This year my mom took it upon herself. I'm gonna buy whatever, right? Candy. Well, she decided to buy gummy bears, and my daughter even said that, Dad, no one wants that stuff.
Yeah, we got all the good stuff though.
Yeah.
She did.
Yeah, so I
That's
bought like
too
what, two
funny.
bags of Hershey bars, and I said, "Well,
Mhm.
this looks like this is all yours since your grandma decided to buy these gummy bears that nobody wanted." So,
Yeah.
Oh man, I
oh,
love it how you said we were the Raisin House this year.
that's what. If you were on the Thon space, I'm like, "Were you the Raisin House last night?"
Yeah.
Sadly, I was. So, but
Yeah,
nobody
we
Oh,
came,
were.
so that's okay. No harm, no foul. Nobody knew nothing. So,
there you go. It's
uh,
like good if a tree falls, right, and nobody's there. Did it
yeah, yeah.
ever happen?
Did you hear it?
Well, now we have a big bowl of these things that, like,
No
what are we
shit.
gonna do with it?
Yeah.
Save it for next year. No, I
No,
think she's gonna take it to work or something.
all we gotta do is throw like a Christmas party, invite our real life friends over, and just get them drunk. Sooner or later, someone will attack that bowl of gummy bears. I just know it.
Mm.
Oh,
Um,
for sure.
Definitely, I see a thought story brewing here with some gummy bears, but
Yeah,
Yes, I like it.
Obi-Wan's thinking about that. He's gonna incorporate
I'm,
in the next week's story.
I'm taking notes as we speak. Let's go.
we're gonna see that, guys. We're gonna see him take notes without us even seeing it. He's using his pinky. He's like,
He's got his AI listening in on it, just
There you go.
recording right now.
yeah, it's Junie and Janie, right? So, um,
Yes.
Omi-Wan. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Omi-Wan.
No, yeah, totally. Yeah, no, I do have my AI assistant there here taking notes from me. So let's go.
I think
Oh.
everyone's got an AI thing going on now, right? Before we started the live stream, I was telling Omi-Wan how like I love making music, and I really go dive deep into like the AI music generation every night. Like I'll literally
Mm.
sit on my computer and be like, "What do I want to make today?" And I'll just like start writing stuff and curating it. And then now with the whole incorporation of I can move voices around, I love it. So I think AI, and we can get into AI a little bit later in the conversation. AI
Yeah.
has made life a lot more productive, at least for me. I don't know if you can say the same, Omi-Wan.
Yeah, no, I think it certainly is a very useful tool, especially for really, taking a lot of the heavy lifting out of some of these, really intensive type of things. So I love it. I certainly am a big fan, and I try to use it as much as I can to maximize my time.
Oh, there's the word, the maximize. It's your favorite
Maximize.
word.
We won't get into that, Hinata. Stop it.
Maybe we will. We'll
Maybe
see. We'll see. But let's get into
anyway.
Omi-Wan right here. So
Yeah.
Omi-Wan, this is a question I like to ask. We're just gonna get right into it, man. And by the way, welcome to the podcast. I want you to feel comfortable, like you're sitting right across of us in our living room in Hawaii. So if you fuck shits and all that, it all goes here. However you want to be. We just want you to be yourself. If you want to crack open a beer, it's fine with us too. Go right ahead. Let's go. But let's start off with your origin story, my friend. I am deeply fascinated to know how you actually found this Web3 space. It's my understanding that I know you from Vivi, but there's so much going on here. There's Vivi, there's crypto, there's AI. How did you find this space? And what's your origin story on how you got here?
Gotcha. No, I love that question. And before I get into VV and crypto and all that stuff, maybe I should get into my origin story, and I think that'll lead right into you know the second half of the question or the first half of the question, however you want to look at it. But a little bit about me: grew up in Southern California, and when I got to about the high school age, my parents decided to move. And it was always tough, when you're a kid and you're moving and trying to kind of reestablish yourself, especially in those teenage years. It was a little bit challenging for me,
Yeah.
but ultimately, everything worked out, and decided to once I got out of high school, started doing some odds and end jobs around town. And one of my very first jobs, which is hilarious to me now that I think about it, was I worked at a Sears portrait studio, and I was taking pictures. And I tell you what, I didn't have patience before then, but I do now. Once you work in a portrait studio and you try to get families and kids and everybody to laugh and
Mm.
smile, and yeah,
Yeah.
that was probably to this day still one of the hardest jobs, if not the hardest job I ever had, was working in that portrait studio. Albeit I was young, 19 years old, right out of high school. So,
Wow.
um, but the reason I bring that up is that it didn't take much for me to decide that that was not what was going to be in my future. So I ended up joining the Navy, right? And I joined the Navy, and at that point, growing up in Southern California, I always thought I would. Get stationed in San Diego, and everything would be perfect, and I'd be able to have my friends and family close by. But needless to say, that wasn't the case, and I ended up being stationed out on the East Coast for about 7 years. So
Wow.
that was a really cool experience for me because I really got to kind of spread my wings a little bit and experience life on the East Coast. And so, especially being in Virginia, you're kind of right in the smack in the middle. And so, I got to do a lot of traveling up north, to the New York, Philly area, Baltimore, and things of that nature. And then it's down south, North Carolina, South Carolina, and Florida and Georgia, of course. So it was a great experience for me, and this was during my 20s, so I really enjoyed that. I got to do a lot of traveling, which kind of led me into like one of my first kind of breakthroughs, which I decided that I wanted to kind of dabble with music. It was kind of one of my hobbies at the time. And so I started playing around with music and doing some kind of singer songwriting type things. Got with a bunch of guys that I had met in the Navy, and we ended up actually putting together an album, and it was awesome. It was
Really?
a great
Nice.
experience. Yeah, yeah, and to this day, every once in a while I get a kick out of it. I'll listen to the music, and I'm like, oh my goodness, like we were we were so young, and we were just having a blast. But it was a great like, honestly, for me, creatively, like I think that's at the time that's what I needed. I needed to have like a creative outlet, and that
Mhm.
was really how I kind of expressed it at the time, was through music. And so that was awesome. That was a great experience for me. And then eventually I did get stationed in San Diego. And that was my last tour of duty, was in San Diego. And so once I got there, I thought, okay, finally I'm here. But at this point, I was almost 10 years in. I was about 8, 9 years into the Navy, and I had a kind of a come to Jesus moment, if you will. I decided, okay, am I going to do this for another 10 years, or am I going to retire, kind of get out now and see what the world has for me. And I decided to get out, which, being in San Diego, it was a perfect city for me because, it's awesome weather, a lot of things to do. And yeah, it was awesome. But what what I really realized is when I got out, one of the first things that I did was I started applying to a bunch of tech jobs, because while I was in the Navy, I was an electronic technician. So that's where I
Oh.
learned a lot of my kind of technical background, was being an electronic technician in the Navy. And so of course those were the jobs that I kind of immediately applied for, because I figured that was the experience I had. But then I realized, I'm like, well, if I'm doing the same thing that I was doing in the Navy, like I should have just stayed in the Navy, should have just
Mhm,
stayed in.
yeah.
So at that point, I just decided that, what, I'm just going to go to school, and I'm going to figure out, what else I wanted to do, and at that point, I had already kind of dabbled with music. And so I decided to go to school for music business. And so I applied to a school in Hollywood called Musicians Institute, and I did that for, it was like a 9-month program. Graduated from there, and was doing some work as a copyright assistant for a music
Wow.
publishing company.
Whoa.
And that was awesome, because it was definitely not what I was doing in the Navy, and it was cool, because I got to learn a lot about the industry and kind of the stuff that you don't really see when it comes to like licensing and publishing, and
Mm.
really kind of managing an artist from that standpoint.
Yeah.
Um, but what I did also come to the realization, because at this point I was in my 30s, that I was competing with a lot of people that were, 18, 19, 20 years old. And I just, at that point, I realized, okay, um, maybe I need to kind of get back to what I'm good at. And just because the money wasn't, it was entry level positions, I didn't really have a lot of experience as far as music goes. So as much as I learned and I loved that part of my journey, I quickly kind of turned back to my technical expertise, and so I ended up moving back down to San Diego, got hired on with the county, and then did that for another few years. And so I say all that to say that it's funny how life kind of gives you these kind of forks in the road, right? And then you kind of decide to go one way or the other. And so at this point, I was out of the Navy. I was, working for the county, but I still felt like something was missing, and so I decided to move up to the Portland, Oregon area, which took my family by surprise because they were like, what do you mean? Like, you have a great job, you're living in San Diego, like, they didn't understand why I felt like I needed to move, but I did. And it was awesome. Like it worked out perfectly that I ended up getting a job up there. And that was the other big thing, is I didn't have a job when I decided to move. I just decided that I needed to move. And so I
Yeah.
did. I just kind of took the leap of faith and moved up there. Eventually got hired on, and kind of the rest is history. At that point, I got into. I was working for a company called Salesforce. Started doing a lot of the cloud computing type,
Benioff.
stuff. Yep. And yeah, I did that for a few years, and which was kind of a good transition for me, because I kind of got away from working from a government standpoint, because being in the military, then working for local government, like this was kind of like my first private sector job, which really kind of opened my eyes to a lot of how the private sector does things.
Yeah.
But what I did learn through all of that was that at each stage in my life, I've honed different parts of like my skill set. So like I was saying early on with working at the portrait studio, I got a lot of patience working there. And then when I was in the military, of course, a lot of discipline.
Mm.
But then at this point, I really was at a point in my life where I started to really like just believe in like myself, and like just like listening to that little voice inside your head, and like trusting that like there's a reason that you're being called to do certain things, or go certain places. And that's what really,
Self-confidence.
yeah, that's what gave me the ability to really like just make the move, and just to end up moving up to a place where I had no friends, no family, but it all worked out. And so that was a great experience for me. um and then along the way, eventually I got to the point where now we're getting close to the 2020, probably right around this time, and of course COVID hit, and that's really where I kind of got into a lot of my kind of crypto financial journey. I think, like a lot of Americans, I started to realize, like, I saw like my 401k just like plummeting, and I was like, what is
Yeah.
going on? Like, this is crazy. Like, all this work that I had done throughout my life, and like anything that I thought, like all this like lump sum of money that I thought I was putting away for my future, was like now just like dwindling down to zero. And I was like, okay, I need to figure this out. Like, I need to understand how to better manage my finances, understand like the power of money and passive income. And that's really kind of what took me down the crypto rabbit hole. Was kind of 2020 COVID, and seeing like the financial system just really kind of plummet, and then eventually come back up, and bounce. And so that's what really kind of got me into like thinking about Bitcoin, thinking about some of these altcoins that were really popular at the time. But what got me into Vivi, though, was during that time I really got big into YouTube, and I was watching a lot of YouTube videos, which was how I kind of got most of my information, was via YouTube.
Mm.
And there was one channel in particular that was highlighting the VV collectibles, and I was like, huh, this sounds really interesting, because I've always been a collector ever since I was a kid. I collected things, from action figures to comic books to movies, music. I mean, you name it, I was always buying and collecting stuff. So it just really kind of called to me from that standpoint. But to be perfectly honest, it was OMI that kind of pulled me in via the crypto side. And then once I learned that OMI was tied to Vivi, and the digital collectibles that they were offering, I was like, okay, this is a no-brainer for me. And that's what really kind of made me take the the deep dive, and ended up signing up, and the rest was history. Bought my first collectible and then comic, and away I went.
What was your first collectible in comic?
First collectible was the Doctor Doom. That was the
Ooh.
very first one that I got. I was like super excited because he was always like one of my favorite characters as a comic book reader.
Mhm.
So I that was one of the first ones that I bought, and then my first comic was actually, um, I think it was the first appearance of Deadpool, if I'm not mistaken. It was right after MC, right after Marvel Comics 1. I think they did the first Deadpool comic, if I'm not mistaken. It was right around that time. I think those first few comics,
New
and
Mutant
that's
98?
where yeah, New Mutants '98, and that was my very first comic. So
Wow, man, this has been a very long introduction to your origin story, and I love the fact that we have similar journeys in a sense. Now, I was not in the military. I have worked for Benioff myself. In fact, I still do work for him, but I'm not allowed to say anymore because I signed these fat NDAs when you go work for that guy. But
hmm
yeah, no, similar story in terms of kind of like getting a handle on your finances. I was the same way. You know, profit sharing, and you got your 401k, and then COVID happened. But so what happened for me, and this is a story I tell often, and this is why people ask me, well, why do you? Because I used to throw comic books on the floor in Twitter. I used to throw them for like $1, or just like whatever was the cheapest I could like floor it for, and I did that because somebody gave me a chance. Now this is like back in the day when like you threw a comic on the floor and it was actually worth more than just a $1.50 gem, right? But
hmm
yeah, no, during COVID or before COVID, I'm losing myself here. Let me get back to the comic books. So basically, I threw the comic books on the floor just to help people out because somebody helped me out way back when. This is like back in 2016. I was given a free stock, and by it was like a crappy stock. It was called B2 Gold. It was a mining company. It wasn't doing anything, but it helped me learn how to read a balance sheet, read a 10K, 10Qs, understand how the stock market worked. That's kind of how I got into the foray of all this, was through the stock market. I did really well on Square, and also Facebook. Before it was Facebook, before they changed to Meta, but I got lucky. So D and I were ready to quit our job because our employer wasn't really treating us well. This was in 2019. This is like Christmas 2019. And I remember I sold everything. I was heavy on Tesla stock. I was buying Tesla stock, I think back when it was like around $28 a share. I sold it all. And you know what happened in 2020? The market tanked because of COVID, right? So I was
hmm
sitting on just a mountain of cash. Now we were going to use that to start a business. I've been in communications for 20 somewhat odd years. And I told D, let's just throw it all back into Tesla stock. And so I should have just dumped it all in Tesla stock right back then, because I believe the share price dropped down to like maybe 375, $400. But I
hmm
slowly kept like rising back into my positions, adding to all the positions that I sold out of. And I've been writing off of that house money since then. Bitcoin, I knew about Bitcoin because my buddy was like a big Bitcoin maximalist back in 2020 throughout the pandemic. So same like the government injected a bunch of cash into the system. Unemployment was getting kind of like poured into the company, and so all that excess cash I just put into investments, along with that cash that I took out in 2019 prior to the crash in the stock market. And so all of my Tesla stock I ended up selling, and I incorporated into Bitcoin, and that's how I got into crypto. But the thing about crypto is, when I started in digital collecting, we didn't really get along with a lot of the crypto maximalists back then. I don't know if you remember, people used to argue all
hmm
the time on the feeds. And so now D and I have taken a stance on trying to get to know the crypto side of things more than just staying in this Web 2.5 bubble, and
Mhm.
just being like, oh, these guys are crypto maximalists and they complain too much. We wanted to get to know the crypto world more, and that's why I'm so happy that both D and I can like kind of talk story with you and Dave, and get to know all these new other people, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But like, that's kind of in a nutshell how I came to be in this stuff and to kind of in relation with your story. You want to add anything to this, Steve?
Well, before I forget, I had two questions when you were still talking about your journey when you were younger.
Hmm.
So first of all, what is this music album that you made long, long time ago, and can we find it on YouTube? And because that'll be cool to like hear, back then and then now. Um, and then when you were talking about, moving to all these places because of circumstances, when you had the opportunity to do so, how come or what made you choose Portland? Where you could have gone like Washington or somewhere else along the coast there. What made you and without a job either, so what made you choose that particular place?
Yeah, no, great question, D. I'll answer that one first. So the reason why I eventually ended up moving to Portland was a friend of mine that I had met while I was in San Diego. He was originally from Portland, and he had moved back, and he invited me back up for his wedding. And of course, they planned their wedding around the most beautiful time of the year, and so I ended up going to visit for a couple of weeks in mid-August. And Portland in August is like amazing. And I immediately just fell in love with the city, the people, and that's actually when I ended up going back down to tell my family that I was moving to Portland, and they all thought I was crazy. Like, what are you talking about? Like, you don't even know anybody there? I was like, no, I do. I have a buddy there. And they're like, well, what are you going to do for a job? I'm like, I don't know. I'll figure it out. And yeah, so that was really the spark that kind of lit the Pacific Northwest fire for me. And then eventually I did move up to Washington, where my daughter is with her mom in Seattle. So that's where I've been most recently. Although the last few months I've been down in Southern California once again. But yeah, so I've traveled kind of up and down the Pacific coast, and yeah, it's been a great adventure for me. And then as far as the music goes, I don't know if we have anything as far as YouTube. I'm sure that I have files somewhere on my computer that I could probably pull up and share with you, but I don't know if there's anything that's on YouTube right now that I could
Not on
point you to.
iTunes, right? You can't find it on
Yeah,
iTunes.
yeah, no, no, not on iTunes. No, this was, it's so funny when I listen to it now because there was there that was really what sparked me going to into music business, was because of that album, and the fun that I had making it, which um it plays a big part in where I am now with THON and storytelling. Like I said, it's funny how my life kind of evolved into where it is now, because when I approach music, I always approached it from a very visual kind of standpoint, almost like a storyboard kind of
Mhm.
perspective. And so that's how I kind of visualized and wrote my music, was taking that approach. So I've always known that storytelling has always been a part of my calling, so to speak. So for years now, I've wanted to write a book, and so like I'm like, oh, this is perfect. Like I'm able to kind of create a story on the fly with a lot of people to kind of help me craft these characters and these places, and the these adventures. And so it's just kind of a cool evolution for me to get to this point. So
Yeah, it's really cool to see like now with AI you can use that to help you out. I know Hinano's been having a lot of fun when he has time to create, our albums and stuff for the podcast. And even though, that's AI that helps him, he does um like
I
feed
write all
it,
the lyrics.
yeah, all the lyrics and stuff, and then it just kind of creates, the beat and the way the song goes. But yeah, it's very interesting, and it's been fun just hearing like, whatever comes out. And I know other people in our community spaces like casual, um I'm sure there's a bunch of people I'm just blanking on right now, but they use that to like, put stuff out there, and it's a lot easier nowadays because of AI. Um, so I think that's really interesting. I haven't done it myself, but I just let all the creative minds like you
Yeah.
guys do all that stuff, and I just enjoy it.
Yeah, no, it's actually really cool how technology has evolved to the point where you can, sit in your own home and create music. That wasn't always the case, right? Like you had to, just getting the software alone was a challenge, and then at that point, very rarely did you have the right gear to be able to make the right mixes and stuff like that. So you'd have to go into a studio and pay for studio time, and so like all these things that once artists used to have to do, you can now do from the comfort of your own home. So it's just amazing what technology has provided, people that have that kind of creative outlet to express themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanna touch more on your AI art and kind of give the audience on what we're talking about. I know some people watching us right now, they know what THON is, and other people
Mhm.
are just probably they scroll right past by because maybe it just says meme token or something like that. But for the people watching in the back room that don't know what THON is basically a Twitter Spaces hosted by Dave and OMI-Juan, Morgan, and a few other people, and they curate stories with Dave's AI Junie. And so you just take a bunch of group of people together and we all feed Junie data and she creates a story for us. And it's exactly what Omi-Wan said about curating a story on the fly and doing this with a bunch of people. And it's been a lot of fun, Omi-Wan. Like I'm not joking. Like when I first started like joining you folks, I would move my schedule around because that was the most fun I've had in this space in a very long time. And I've had a lot of fun in this space, but like the laughs and just being creative like that, sometimes too creative to a point where it's like, okay, well, the story's like really gone left, but
Out of this
um,
world,
For
literally.
sure.
yeah, but
Totally.
it's been a lot of fun. So, can you kind of give us an origin on how Thon first started, if that's possible, Omi-Wan?
Yeah, no, I think like I'd love to say that I was there from like day one, but that's not true. But I've me and Dave have I'm in a lot of his spaces and stuff like that. So eventually I really I found out that that he had created this token and that he was starting to do utilize Junie in kind of a storytelling format. And so immediately like that, like just knowing that he was running it and the fact that he was going to utilize Junie to create this like AI story immediately kind of called to me. So I did jump in fairly early, but I can't say that I was there from day one. But with all that being said, I think that what really kind of has um, made me keep coming back, kind of like what you were saying, Hanano, was that the fun of crafting, like there's something about like sharing ideas, and kind of spitballing, like figuring out like, hey, what if we do this, hey, what if we do that, like just like that creative process that really kind of takes me back to like I was saying when I was in the studio, like that's a lot of the times how we would come up with the different topics that we wanted to, write songs about, or like the way we wanted to craft our music was a very similar approach. So I that's where I kind of take some of the lessons that I learned from that into crafting these stories. And I mean it all kind of goes back to like my childhood, to be perfectly honest, right? A lot of the ideas come from like stuff that I watched as a kid, or um just pop culture movies, or things that are happening, that I'm pulling different ideas and really utilizing this like bag of tricks that I've accumulated over the years to like pull from. And it's just so fun because it sparks that conversation, right? It's just like one little story or one little idea. um I can say something and then you'll expand on it, and then like D will come up with an idea, and then before you know it, like we have this like whole adventure crafted once Junie comes out with the finished product. So it's just been a great to kind of like share that experience with folks like you and everybody else that joins our spaces. So
It's been really fun, man. And what I love about this, and this goes back to what I was kind of explaining about, kind of like having similar stories is we get to finally meet a certain side of the community that we never really got to like hang out with, which is the crypto side of things. Like there are so much people in this community, specifically
So
in Web
much.
3, and it's been very
Mhm.
exciting to get to know people like Morgan, DGen Mike and his alter ego, and all these other
Yes.
people. I won't say his name, but you know what I'm saying, right? And then also,
Yeah.
Dave. Dave is just like he is just a man with energy. You know what I
Oh
mean? When you
yeah.
get into his Twitter space, he kind of uplifts everybody. And so I've been watching, or not watching, I've been listening to his Twitter spaces for quite some time, from Wolf of Wall Street. Oh no, is the Wolf of Wall Street? Well, whatever the
No,
Wolf
well,
account was.
yeah,
Yeah,
or
so that
something.
the Wolf account until like whatever he's doing now, I can never keep up with the guy. But THON was something that was where I actually went up on one of his first Twitter spaces and actually went and talked story. And I think I remember I was telling D, I'm like, oh, there's something I want to add to their story. He's like,
Oh
just go up
yeah.
there. I'm like, well, I don't know. I mean, like, it seems like they got like a good dynamic going. He's like, no, just go up there. And I went up there that one time and
Mhm.
I
Hmm.
just, I got hooked. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I didn't care about the meme token. There is a meme token that's associated with this, guys, but I didn't care about that. I mean, none of that really mattered to me. And when I bought into the token OMI-Juan, it wasn't to like have a proposition value. It was to support you guys. That's the only reason I bought
Right.
into the token, was to support what you guys were doing. And it's been a lot of fun getting to know a different side of this community. Now I'm meeting people on in the Tron blockchain. There's people from
Hmm.
Stacks. It's been really, really fun to like branch out because, like I said, we started in the digital collecting space. And then we slowly started branching out to these other things, cryptoys, McFarlane Toys, digital. And now we're out in the broader crypto world. We've had some crypto artists on the podcast. I believe we're going to have more crypto people coming in the near future. It's just been a lot of fun. So
Mhm.
yeah, it's been
Yeah.
great.
No. No. I totally second that, and I agree. Like it's just been amazing to kind of really um learn crypto, but like I'm not like there for the crypto, if that makes sense, right? Like I'm learning
Yeah.
a lot
Yeah.
about like what it takes to um keep a project like this going, but at the same time it doesn't feel like work, which is like totally cool. Like I love the
Yeah.
fact that like I'm doing this more from a passion standpoint, and it doesn't feel like work. Like if I weren't doing anything, like this was probably what I would be doing anyways, so it just makes it so much fun for me to be able to like come up with like, and I'll be, like the whole thing with the pictures and the AI, like it wasn't something that like Dave was like, oh, but you should come up with this. Like this was just something like I remember being in a space and I was like, oh, like I had all these like visual elements in my head, and I'm like, like I would love to have like a picture to go with like this crazy scene that we came up with, or
Yeah.
this crazy character that that we were able to kind of like introduce, in the space. And so that's what really kind of led me into, like that right there, like I know the space, like I remember what we were talking about, and Nat and the turds and Meta Beast. And so it's just like I was like, oh, how can I like bring these stories to life in a way that people will see a picture and be like, oh, that's kind of cool, what's that all about, and so that's kind of why I started doing it. And it's just been fun. Like it's something, like I said, that nobody kind of asked me to do. I just decided I wanted to do to kind of help with bringing that story to life. So
Same
Yeah.
here.
And,
Go ahead, D.
and you do a really great job. I mean, I can't believe like you made Hinano look so sexy. It's great. And all the other characters that you kind of like bring them to life. Because like when we're in the story time space, we don't see each other's faces. We just kind of have to like use our imagination and picture in our minds how the character would look like. But then when you show us, your vision, it's like, oh yeah, okay. So then now we have like, the picture in our minds when we do turn into story time. And yeah, you do a really great job at doing that, Omi-Wan.
well, thank you.
And yeah, no problem. And like getting into that space as well, and meeting all these different people and having them show up, when we do a space or a live stream. It just kind of like expands our horizon, and you get more support that way from like there are so many people out there that I never realized until I started, going, just listening, of course, at first, in all the spaces, and as the people hosting it see you come every time, they make you feel more welcome, and eventually you make it up there to the stage, and then from there you make all these connections, which is it's pretty incredible. So now I'm like, when I go to a space, I just follow whoever is up speaking, because I never know when I'm gonna come in contact with them, and from there make other connections to like other projects, and just my mind is like expanding and just taking it all in. There's just so much out there, but it's a
For
great way to
sure.
connect. Yeah.
Yeah, the
Yeah,
networking
it's
aspect on this is. I'm sorry, everyone. Real quick, the networking
yeah. Go
aspect
ahead.
on this has been very fulfilling, and I think very rewarding. I know a lot of people would grumble like that we paid our dues because maybe you're in the red, and I don't ever look at it that way because we met so much cool people in here. We met
Hmm.
you, Dave. I've met like a bunch of friends that I've never really seen in real life yet. I'm going to in a few weeks at Vegas, but like just networking with like, people that were maybe one day from Wall Street or a CEO for a company, right? Or just a regular person who like maybe mops the floor in a
Hmm.
school or something like that. It
Mhm.
doesn't matter. It's just the networking portion and everyone brings value to this space. And I love that. Go ahead, Omi-Wan.
Yeah, no, two things really quick, and one is that as I said earlier, like how much um, Twitter and or now X and YouTube has like expanded my horizons as far as like learning, right? Like I've learned so much just via those two platforms in the last few years that I probably have in my entire life, if I'm being perfectly honest, right?
Yeah.
And it's because of the way. I don't know. Maybe it's just how like you kind of find like-minded individuals kind of organically. Like when you kind of go down and start to kind of take the plunge down the rabbit hole, right? And so I remember early on when I was learning a lot about Bitcoin and crypto and things of that nature. Before Twitter, I was on Clubhouse, right? And I remember listening
I
to those
remember
big kind of
Clubhouse.
Clubhouse spaces, right? Where like I was just a listener. I never in my mind would I ever think I'd ever be up on, talking, but I did
Hmm.
learn a lot just listening, right? And so now I take all that in and so now it just allows me to feel comfortable. Like, not only do I have a good idea of what you're talking about, but like over the years, I've been able to kind of formulate my own kind of ideas. And so when it makes me feel more comfortable when I'm in a space because I can have a conversation and I know. I don't know, kind of you've just kind of paid your dues in a way. I don't know, for lack of a better term, right? Like you've learned the content, you learned the information, and kind of as a as a listener, you kind of learn the do's and don'ts, because you kind of learn what people do and what people don't do, right? So
Yeah.
that's what's kind of allowed me to like feel a lot more comfortable in being up in spaces now, because just all the hours and hours and hours of watching videos and listening to content and understanding that, like, okay, I do have a good idea of what they're talking about, right? Like I feel comfortable enough in knowing that I have a good grasp on the topic. So
Do you remember your very first Twitter space? And let me kind of like frame this question. So my first Twitter space was a Silicon Secure space, and it was the Road to DCon 2022. And we're going to get into the DCon because it's my understanding you went to that. But
mhm.
I remember I was so nervous to hit the request button, but at the same time, I really wanted to go up there because I was going to decon with my wife and my daughter. I didn't know anybody other than the YouTubers that I kind of like, chatted with in DMs, which was like My Collectibles, VV Vibes, and Superstar Money. Those were the three that I would constantly always chat with DMs. My Collectibles was the very first content creator that actually would respond to me in DMs. So I felt like I had a good rapport with them, and so. But going to decon, I didn't know nobody, so I was a little bit nervous at the time, and
Hmm.
that's the reason why I wanted to go on the next space. And I just remember pushing that button, and then I just had like And I don't get nervous, but I got super nervous. I had what we call chicken skin, right? I got goosebumps. And then you get up on the elevator and you hear, oh, the real Hinano's up. How are you? And I'm like, shit, I got to say something. It's like, and I remember like choking. I'm like, hi.
Aloha.
That was it. Hi.
Yeah.
Hi, how are you? Good. You know what I mean? It was like really bad. And then Silicon just kind of went like, well, welcome. It's my understanding. You've been in the community for a while. You're in Hawaii. We have another guy who's from Hawaii, and he made me feel very welcome. That I was able to get over my myself and talk. And then after that, I went on a couple other YouTubers. I went on Bob Sales channel, and I went on YouTube and started doing this. And now we're doing this stuff. It's kind of like what you said, right? You watch the do's and don'ts, and I really feel like I still do the don'ts up here, but whatever. It's what makes it real, right? But yeah, what was the very first Twitter space, if you remember, and if you don't mind telling us?
I'm pretty sure it was an O'Malley space. I'm almost positive. And if I had to guess, he was talking something about Star Wars, right? Like I'm pretty sure it was the topic was Star Wars, and I think he may have like asked a question that like I knew the answer to, and so I of course I nervously like hit the request button, and I'm like, okay, well let me see, and I don't remember what the question was or what the answer was, but I just remember that it was probably one of his spaces, and he was asking for some. He was asking a question that I knew the answer to, and I jumped up stage and I was like, yeah, I think you're talking about so and so, or this and that, and then of course being Millie, he was like, oh yeah, perfect, thank you, and like I remember in my mind like. Oh, like why did I think it was going to be that hard? Like I was so nervous too, to do it. But after I did it, I was like, oh, this, like, I could do this. Like like,
Yeah,
it's not that big of a deal, right? Like I just made it up in my head that it was such a big deal. But even then, I mean, I still, like I could come up and like give an answer, but like actually have conversations with something that wasn't necessarily like
work in
I
progress.
didn't see that, but I think after that, then it was like that gave me the I don't know, guts maybe for like joining other spaces, and then that's when I went into Rebel Duck's space, and of
Oh
course
yeah.
Rebel Duck always makes you feel super comfortable, and you just
Yes.
like he's
Yeah.
another one of those kind of people that like you could just feel like you're just sitting across from him and just like talking regular talk. So, and of course it was like a late night, like he would always have his late night Rebel Duck spaces, and we just started
Mhm.
chatting, and there was maybe like 2 or 3 of us in a space. It wasn't very big, and I think like that really kind of like allowed me to be like, okay, I can just talk, like I could just be myself, like I don't have to be like somebody that like ran up to the stage and gave a quick answer and was like, okay, I'm out, like it was like, okay, like I could just like talk. And so I think those were the two that really kind of got me into like being able to like just feel comfortable in joining a space and adding to the overall flow of the conversation.
And now I like to consider you, like, I call you the wingman, because you're literally co-host for a lot of people these days that I've noticed. I've seen you on O'Malley's space. I seen you just with Docta like an hour or two ago with his bar pushes. I've seen you on like a bunch of other Twitter spaces to where you're either the co-host or you're up there chatting away and talking stories. So you're like big bro for X spaces, because I like to joke around that the biggest bro is kind of like the wingman for YouTube. He's constantly everyone's co-host. Well, one time he was the host for this show. And so I see you kind of coming into your own with the Twitter spaces. And yeah, it's really awesome to see you up there, man. I consider you a content creator. No joke. What about you, D?
Yeah. My first Twitter space was with Nas, and there was like only a little bit of people in there. And he saw me down in the listening mode, and we think we were talking about I don't know, it was so long ago. It was like 2 years ago.
It was Decon.
Um, yeah, Decon. So he was talking about it, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, I see D. You gotta come up." I'm like, "Oh shit!" I'm like, "Oh man, like I'm so nervous. Like, what am I supposed to say?" So yeah, I just requested to go up, and Nas, he's always joking around, making you feel comfortable. And so I went up and I was kind of like, I was like, hey guys.
Yeah,
And like,
mute.
yeah. um, I could tell like in my voice like was shaking. I'm like, okay, this is not so bad afterwards. Plus, like they don't see your face, so it's a little bit better than if someone were to like call you up and you go up on YouTube and everyone can see your face. Yeah, so Nas was my first Twitter space, and then even after that, I was still always like listening, like in Rebels music spaces late at night, and also when Cashflow used to always have his financial literacy
Mm.
spaces, um, because he's like 6 hours ahead of me. It would always be like nighttime for them, and I'll be like the only one that's like still has daylight where I am. Um, yes, I would just be like mainly listening. Oops, I muted myself. I'm still a rookie. Yeah, so Nas was the first space, and then started listening more. And then I believe when Webby Wednesday first started, with Oz, very first one, that's when I believe I was up there speaking, and I was like messaging like a bunch of space experts. I messaged Maz and Dino. I was like, you need to come and help me because we're having our first Webby Wednesday space, and we are like total newbies. So what do we need to do? And they're basically like, just go with the flow, just talk about what you're going to talk about. And that was when like everyone started their spaces, and there were so many trolls back then that would just
Mhm.
want to come up and say some BS and then like just leave. So I
Yeah.
think like for the first Webby Wednesday space, we had like a bunch of people that came up and was like, we try to welcome them and start talking with them, and then after a while they start speaking. You're like, okay, they're just trolling, they're talking just random stuff. But yeah, and then now like look at where we are now. We've come so far after
Totally.
these 2 years. So
Still unprofessional.
yeah. So it's been great. It's been a great learning experience for I think everybody, and I see that more people are having spaces, having podcasts, and coming up to speak in these spaces. So yeah, it's a good, especially for networking. That's what I look forward to, is getting to meet other people that I've never heard of or who are not even from BV. It's like there is another world out there that we don't always think about.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I love that, D. I love that. Yeah, no, and thank you for the compliment, and I know as far as the
Of
being a
course.
content creator, because it is funny because I don't see myself in that.
Of
I
course
mean,
you
I'm
don't.
sure there's a lot of things that like you don't see yourself right as that, but like
Yes.
or it's one of those things where you're always the last one to know, right? But it's cool. Like I feel like. I don't know. Like I said, I've been around long enough. I've listened to a lot of the conversations. I've met a lot of the people, and my life experience really has put me in this position where like I feel like I can share my point of view, and I know that the people that I've surrounded myself with are going to be receptive to that. And I think that kind of speaks to what you were saying, D, as far as like kind of naturally being able to kind of weed out some of those trolls, right? And like really like, get a solid group of like folks that and you trust, and you can kind of be yourself around.
Hmm.
So that's really been one of the most amazing things as far as this journey is being able to kind of like have that solid group of people that like you can just really kind of trust with being yourself. So
I want to talk about the solid group of people because it's my understanding that you've been to a lot of the cons. Both D and I have been to DCon 2022. That's the only con that we ever went to. And if we didn't go to that con, OMI-Juan, I don't think we'd be up here talking. I did share the story that my first Twitter space was Silicon Secures, and then we went on Bob Sales channel a few times, but we never really meant to start this podcast and come up here and talk with people. What really helped us was going to DCon 2022, who didn't know anybody there, nervous again, another person that doesn't really get nervous. But once we, kind of pulled that band-aid off and started talking to people, that was it. It's like we went from knowing nobody to like knowing half the people there, and also knowing that the other half we didn't even meet, even though they were there as well, like you and the biggest bro and a few other people. But kind of tell us about your first experience at maybe DCon 2022. What was your very first con experience, specifically with the people in the community, the VV fam? Um, what was your experience like?
Well, it's funny because I actually I was talking to David about this recently, David you, and I told him how that first decon for me was really the game changer, where I realized instantly, like, not only is like, it was a no-brainer when it came to IP and collecting, right? Like, that for me was like an easy sell, but what
Yeah.
wasn't so easy for me was like um coming from Web3 and a lot of the communities back then. Like, I knew the importance of having a solid community, right? And having people that were like-minded individuals that you can kind of instantly relate to. And I never had that feeling in other projects, right? Like going to
Mm.
decon and instantly like sparking conversation with people that I didn't even really know up until that point, and like being able to just have like a 20-30 minute conversation out of nowhere about various things, whether it's VV related or other stuff, and it feeling so natural to me, right? And so that was really one of the biggest things that I was like, okay, this is different. Like, this isn't like any of the other things that I've experienced. And not only that, but it just felt so natural. And so that was, I told him, I was like, I appreciate the fact that uh, you know um, that you've played a big part in crafting this community, and I know a lot of it is you know I, I think a lot of it does actually just come from the community, right? Like, I mean, I don't get me wrong, like, I appreciate um, what he's brought to the table, but I also know that the community has kind of grown organically, right? Like, that is not something that they cultivated necessarily. That was something that was just kind of came out of, like I said, having a bunch of people that love the same stuff. And so that was like my first experience, is like, just I went away from there like thinking like, this is so cool. Like, I found people that like the same stuff that I do, are into a lot of the same things that I am, and are also like looking ahead the way I'm looking ahead,
Mm.
which was something that I didn't always have, as far as like I would, I've been to other cons, right? And I've met people that like the same kind of stuff, but usually like it just kind of left off there. But like, this was like, okay, not only do we like the same stuff, but like we have the same vision going forward. And that was something that was really kind of cool for me. So
Yeah, and what's so crazy about that is not only are we all like-minded, but we like to hang out with each other in this virtual world, or as like David, you like to call it, right, our third place. I find myself
hmm
constantly wanting to connect into this third place. Like, I don't know if you're like me. I get up at like 5 in the morning. I'll literally turn Twitter on to see what's going on. That's how bad I am, or good, depending on how you look at that perspective. But I just like networking, hanging out in this space. I mean, I have real friends and I go and hang out with them too. But and a lot of them don't understand what we're doing in here, OMI-Juan. That's what's so crazy. Like, like if I go hang out with my real friends, they'll be like, "Oh, so you're hanging out with those internet people and that fake stuff," and like, you deal with that, right? And then you come into
right.
here, and it's like we get it. We understand. We're forward looking. This is the future, right? And it's exciting to be a part of this. We're pioneering in this space. There's digital collecting involved. There's AI on top of that. There's Web3. It's all incorporated in crypto. And a lot of the population outside of our digital space don't understand any of this yet, except for our kids, right? The kids
Mhm.
understand all this
Right.
digital stuff, and so it's like, and that's another cool thing for D and I, because when we started doing all this digital stuff, our daughter and I, and all three of us, we got way more closer because we understood her, because she's been playing the Minecraft and the Roblox for a while now, and so it's like it's kind of a meeting of the minds where it's like, okay, we understand your digital world and your digital friends, we have our own, and we can both kind of like relate to that. So it's been really fun for that too. What do you think about that, T?
No, I going on what you said about the kid being involved. It's when I have spaces kind of loud and I'm like, doing stuff while it's playing, she like knows certain people just by their voice when they talk. Or if she doesn't know so much, she's like, "Oh, who's that?" And so I would tell them the name, um, and she's like, "Oh, okay." I'm like, either she's met them in 2022, or these are like people that have come up on the podcast. So she has some sense of like the people that we talk to on the internet. But what I think is really cool too is from our experience 2 years ago that we didn't know a lot of people and we were just starting, in BB and starting in the Web3 and um, getting to know all these like strangers. I feel like now when we do meet people like in 2 weeks or the next con that's coming next year or a few years from now, because we've had like for me and Hinano, because we've had like 2 years, um, to like get to know you and other people on spaces, on YouTube, spatial. I feel like we kind of know what, oh, I guess like a sense of what you like, what someone's into, and when we meet in real life, it'll be like we're just been friends this whole time, but like in person. So that's like what I'm like really excited when we get to meet you and everyone else in 2 weeks, just to like we have like I'll come up to you and we can talk about stuff because we kind of know like what you like, and not be just like all awkward like, hey, how are you, hi, just
Totally.
like how we were like 2 years ago. So yeah, that's the whole connection is what I'm really all about um, for this space. And yeah, I just think that from the first time going on a space, first time going to a decon, is just like every stepping stone to get to where we are now. And yeah, I'm just really excited to like meet people. That's just what
She's
I
not
want to do.
she's not kidding either, OMI-Juan. Like literally, I told OMI-Juan this. Have you ever had a Hawaiian friend before? I mean, until now, right? When you meet local people like us or island people, we love to socialize. We love to talk story. We'll talk your brains off. And not just me. I'm pretty bad at like vocally showing it and visually showing it. D's just as bad. It's just you won't see D coming. You know what I mean? D will sit down. She'll be very nice and chill, and all of a sudden an hour will pass by and you'll realize that you've been yapping around with D for about an hour. And that's the type of people we are. We love to talk story. I will talk your brains off. And it's really cool that we got to know you a little bit more because you're a man of many hats. You're a gypsy. And I love the fact that we can
Yeah.
relate with certain things. You say you have like an electrical background. Well, I've been in communications for like 20 plus years. So we can probably relate in that
Mhm.
sense. And I love that. And I am looking forward to Vegas, man. Are you coming ziplining with us? That's my question for you.
Yeah, of course. Let's go. I'm ready for
All
the zip
Nice.
line.
right.
Let's do this.
You hear that video, Shane? We got another one. Let's go.
Oh, that's so awesome. It's gonna be
Yeah,
great.
actually, that was one of the first times that I actually did go zip lining was in Vegas. It was the ones that are outside of the city, right? It's like of I don't know, it's like 20, 30 minutes outside of Vegas, like the big, huge, long zip lines. But I know they do have the ones right there in Fremont Street as well that you can kind of do. So,
Yeah.
yeah, zip lining is awesome.
Oh,
That's
I'm
good,
totally
man.
looking forward to it. What I played in my mind, like from where we were 2 years ago until now, I feel like it's in like a movie where you see like the main story, but then afterwards you see like the perspectives from like all the other characters. I feel
Hmm.
like um talking to you and so much other people that did go to the Anaheim convention one, and we didn't even know, but they're like, yeah, I was there and like, really? Yeah, I was here with so and so, and it's like, what?
Yeah.
Like, it just totally blows my mind. Like, there's a few people that I know, um, who they were, but I didn't like really know them. And then now it's like, oh my gosh, like you were there too. Like all these people are like coming up to say they were there, and like, oh my gosh, like you don't just realize that, right?
Yeah. When
But
I so
No,
I
it's so funny that you mentioned that. Yeah, I was just gonna say, so it's kind of like one of those movies, right? Where like like if you were to go back and like figure out what the genesis of like where all of our lines like crossed, right? Like we could all
mm-hmm.
point to like Anaheim decon, right? And then like
Yeah.
you can expand out from there where like all of us had kind of our own like past, but like if you were like to go back and like trace our steps, we could all kind of relate to that moment where we were all together, whether we knew it or not. We were all together, so it's so cool.
Anaheim was our origin story, OMI-Juan. Like, we were all literally there, and I'm bummed. I'm bummed that I didn't get to meet you there. I remember seeing the biggest bro because he's hard
Mm-hmm.
not to miss, right? But I
Yeah,
never
him and
went
his
up to go
brother.
talk with him, and so like there were two parties. There was Sanjay's party. Shout out to Sanjay. He actually created a kid zone for our daughter so she could come and hang out. And the best part is the Vivi fam didn't judge. You know what I mean? We brought our own daughter to a party, right? But
That's awesome.
my daughter, she grew up watching My Collectibles with the iPad and his Grogu, and then also Superstar Money. Those are
Yeah.
still her two favorite content creators because of the punching, right? She used to
Yes.
love watching them punch where she used to punch her dear old dad. So like those were the two people or the two content creators she wanted to meet. And it was just cool because we went to that party and we left our daughter with Superstar Money. And I think they talked story with her for like a half an hour. And they ended up giving her an interview that weekend too. But like it was so much fun. We went from not knowing anybody to like we had a posse, right? We hung out with Vivi
Yeah,
Meister. He was part of our group. We had Ghost 888, VV vibes, and I got cut that night. I don't know about you, man. Were you at Sanjay's party?
I wasn't at Sanjay's party. No.
Oh shoot. Okay,
Yeah,
okay.
but that was still a lot of fun. Yeah, I was
Yeah,
hanging out with like the tallest people in the building, and I'm like this little short fry. But yeah,
because
it
was that
was
the
fun.
first night? Was Sanjay's
Yeah,
was
it was
Sanjay's the first
VIP
night?
night was Sanjay's party, and then the
Yeah,
next night was the bowling. You went to the bowling though, right?
yeah, yeah. So that's the reason why I didn't have a decon pass for that day for the first night, so I didn't go until the next night, which was the
Oh,
bowling night. And so yeah,
Yeah, the bowling
yeah.
night was fun. I met Dave. I know Dave doesn't
you
remember
know
me
what's
meeting him, but oh, do we have a delay, man? So I think we might have a delay.
Can you hear us?
yeah, a little bit. It's okay. Yeah, I can hear
Okay.
you guys.
Okay.
Go ahead, Omi One.
Um, no, I was, I yeah, no, it's funny because as close as I've gotten to Dave now, knowing that he was there, like it's so funny because we probably ran right into each other and didn't even know it. That's so funny. But there was two things that you guys had mentioned, and it really kind of hit home for me. One, D, you were talking about like the connections that we've established right over the last few years,
Mhm.
and what's really kind of interesting for me is that they feel authentic, right? Like, and it's like it's really weird because even though like me and you and Hanano, like we've never actually been in the same well, we've been in the same space, but we didn't really like know each other like that. I
Mhm.
still feel like we have an authentic connection, right? Which is really kind of cool and interesting for me because for throughout my life, I mean, I've had a lot of social interactions with a lot of people, but I can't say that all of them had an authentic connection, which is
Mhm.
really kind of an interesting dynamic for me because I feel like a lot of the folks that I meet in this community, I'm able to establish those really authentic connections almost immediately, which is really the other kind of cool thing about it. And then the other thing too that I wanted to talk about was you had mentioned how Vivi and your daughter. So I have a little girl too, and one of the big aha moments for me was I remember we'd come home. We'd come to visit my mom for the holidays, and she had brought down like a big box of like toys that she had saved when I was a kid, right? And we were pulling them all out, and I was playing with my daughter. And I remember at that moment thinking to myself, like, oh, like there's so many toys that I would wish that I could play with her, play with her, but my mom for whatever reason either didn't keep them or they just kind of got lost. Um, um, and that's where I was like, if I do have a collection that's digital, like I don't have to worry about that, right? Like I can pass along this collection to her and know that not only is it still in, the same condition that I got it, but I don't have to worry about like, having lost it per se, right? Like I just know that it's all there and I can pass it on to her. And the other thing too that you were talking about how she plays a really kind of a big part in my journey because I think half of the stuff that I bought on BB is because of her, right? Like so that's the other thing that's been kind of fun, right?
So you own
Yeah.
some
Knowing
Mermacornos then,
that
huh?
like oh yeah, yeah. All the Disney princesses, the Mermacornos, like everything. She loves all that stuff, right? And that's the other thing too. I'm like, when I went into this journey, I always went in with a long-term perspective, right? Like I knew that this was something that wasn't going to be kind of a flash in the pan. I was like, I'm thinking long term, and I'm thinking not only what is it that I can pass down that she'll have that like reminds her of her dad, but also things that remind her of her childhood, right? And like I can collect all these things and pass this collection on to her, and she's going to have both. She's going to have a little piece of dad in that collection and a little piece of her childhood. And so that's one of the two, that's kind of the two things that I really love about collecting on this app is being able to have that for her.
OMI-Juan, I love that, man. That really resonates with me too. My daughter isn't really big on Vivi like she used to be. Like, D still holds all the Mermacornos. I've unfortunately sold mine. But another project that my daughter and I are really close with is Cryptoys. She really loves the
Mhm.
unboxing. It reminds her of
Yeah, mine too.
Roblox. And like that's something that like her and I we will actually spend time. We'll buy like a cube and we'll unbox it. She even wants to do filming now. She wants to be a YouTuber because she's a gamer. So it's something that's really cool. But what really resonated with me and what you said was leaving something behind for them. And what really resonates with that is they understand this stuff. So, that makes a lot of sense. And I never really looked at it that way to where like, I can build up a collection because now my daughter's also into collecting comic books and manga, and I can
Mhm.
give it to her one day. This is something that I can digitally pass down to her. It doesn't need any storage or any of that stuff. And
Mhm.
she gets it. She understands it, and she understands the value from it, and not only the value but also the memories that come with that stuff. So,
Right.
yeah, 100%, man.
Yeah.
What do you think, D?
Yeah.
No, I agree with you guys. Although when I do talk to her, she does like all the digital stuff. She did have a request for me, or and Hinano, for decon, and we're gonna stop there first before they sell out. She's like, I just want the Mermacornos and Unicornos, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's gonna be hell, like waiting in line. But she's like, that's all.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, that's
That's
all.
too funny.
I've heard the
Yeah.
horror stories of waiting in line to get, these little collectibles, but she loves the whole unboxing thing, which I think is great because we still have, we're able to do things with her. We don't bore her, and we're still kind of like, cool parents right now. So um,
Yeah.
Nice.
yeah, it's fun. It's fun to collect with her digitally and physically. Yeah, she's really into manga. She loves her anime, like her Demon Slayer, her One Piece, like so much other. What is the other ones? My Hero Academia,
Mhm.
I mean, she
like
dressed up
some I
as
don't even know.
Shinobu as for Halloween.
Yeah,
She was Shinobu,
That's
so
awesome.
yeah. So it's and it's gotten her to like read a lot more as well. I mean, she loved reading, but you can just give her like a Demon Slayer like book, and she'll just read that on the car ride to like the east side of the island when we take like a 2 hour trip. She's just like engrossed in her book, and we're talking to her, and she's like, "Huh?" And I'm like, "What are you doing?" But she's like, she's not on her iPad. She's like reading a book. So it's,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
it's awesome because I love reading books when I was younger. I mean, still now, but I read mine digitally. But to have
Mm.
her continue, what we used to do and what we used to collect, but in a digital form is, yeah, it's good to see, and it saves a
It's
lot of
Right.
space for sure.
it's this space. This space has really brought us together closer as a family. It's honed our skills. Our public speaking's gotten way better than before. Or I don't know about
Mhm.
mine, but I know D has been like,
Mhm.
phenomenal. I mean, now D's hosting Twitter Spaces, and I go back to what you were saying, like, you know, there's acquaintances and then there's friends, and I really consider all of you guys that I've met in our third space here as friends. We call each
Mhm.
other fam, right? Well, I
Mhm.
wholeheartedly believe in that, you know what I mean? And like, I feel like, if you guys came to me and said, hey, can I count on you in this, I can tell you yes, and you can believe me, kind of a thing, because it's the
Yeah.
truth.
Mhm.
And I love spending time in this space. It's just, I don't know. I can't get enough. It's just so much fun. So
No, I'm right there with you, brother. So I feel like we found ourselves we found ourselves for a reason, and we just need to keep figuring out where it's going to lead us.
well, let's go.
Yeah, I'm excited for whatever is being announced, whatever is coming up, whether we like it or not. I mean, we're all kind of all in this together, unless someone wants to get out. um, but yeah, it's been a journey for sure, like all the ups and downs, and you can see like the people who are still here, um, whether it's like they're still holding whatever they have for the money side, but I think all of us can probably say that we're kind of all in this because of the people.
For sure.
And I know like people like repeat it all the time and it gets overused, but yeah, for the community. At least for my aspect, yeah.
No, I couldn't agree more. I never came into this from a financial standpoint. It was always just because this was stuff that I loved. And along the way, I've realized that I love the community too, right? So it's just like a win-win for me. Not only do I get to collect what I love, but I also get to find friends that also love that. And, we can all kind of share the journey together. So,
And you can share a part of something that you're creating yourself. Like, you are a content creator now, and so you're probably doing things. Well, obviously you're doing things that kind of hones to your past, but like, also it's something new. I mean, you are creating stories, you are creating AI art, you incorporate whatever you've done in the past to your creations. It's something that will help you push yourself forward. There's also opportunities when it comes to this kind of stuff as well. So you can have fun doing this, you can collect what you love. There's opportunities involved, there is a value proposition in it all, and you're just having a good time doing it, or at least that's how I feel about it. What do you think about that, Obi-Wan?
no, I love that. And you know what, when you were talking about how your daughter and reading, right? I don't know how many times I've shared like different experiences with my little one, right? Whether it's watching a show, reading a book, playing with a collectible or whatever. But I think what like the common denominator in all of that is that we're using our imagination, right? And like I feel like being able to like cultivate your imagination allows you to like create things that you never thought you could, right? And I don't know, it kind of takes me back to there was this story that I heard one time, and I think it was Neil deGrasse Tyson, and he was talking about how he was at a park and he saw like a mother and a child walking, and there was like a puddle, right? And immediately the mother kind of like was like trying to like shepherd the kid around the puddle because from a mother standpoint she didn't want the kid to get dirty or get messy or something like that, right? um and what he was saying was that in those moments, like, kids aren't thinking about being messy. Like, they're little scientists, right? They're figuring out the world. They're under like they're doing things to like have a better understanding of what it is to create things, right? Whether it's creating a mess or creating a rocket ship or something like that, right? Like that, those are things that are like created out of imagination, right? And so like we need to cultivate that. And that's one of the things that I really do try to make a point is like cultivate that imagination in my little one, because I know that that's going to like give her the self confidence like you were talking about earlier to like do stuff that other people might not think she can. But so that's what that's been one of my kind of goals as a parent, is really cultivating that imagination. So being able to share this experience, I think, is in a lot of ways allows me to cultivate my imagination, which kind of shows up in my my AI art. But also for her, like she just creates this like safe space to be able to like create adventures in her mind, and so that's one of the beautiful things that I've learned and I've loved about being able to share this with her, is allowing that imagination to flourish.
Oh, I love that, man. How old's your daughter?
6, she's going to be 7 in a couple months. So
Ooh, daddy's little girl. I love that, man. Oh,
oh
D,
yeah.
what about you? That is awesome.
Yeah, it's similar to in a way with our kid. Um, she's really talented when she draws pictures and stuff. And I feel like when you're not um, like pressuring them to do like a specific type of um, art, they're more free to just whatever is in their mind. And so like like she just like randomly gives me these papers, little sticky notes, just randomly, and I find them in my bag, in my purse. I find them in the pocket of the car door. So I just look at her. I'm like, oh, this is pretty cool. Um, and so I tell her, I'm like, what is this? And she's like, oh, this is my anime version. And I tease her sometimes, like the way that she draw. There's a few characters that she drew, and she showed me, and the way that she drew the legs looked like they're wearing like big like pantaloon pants. And so that's what I started calling them, like, oh, you're pantaloon people. And she got so mad at me the first time. She's like, Mom, they're not pantaloons. Like, what is a pantaloon? But the more like I kept like, I'm like, no, I'm not teasing. I'm just telling you what it looks like. I mean, you're doing a great job. And so now when she makes them, she's like, Mom, look at my pantaloon people. So I'm like, yes, that could be like a series that you do, with your
For
comic
sure.
strip. Yeah, like the pantaloon people. And so
That's
me like
awesome.
teasing her in like not in a mean way, but like in a fun way. And then like the more I do that with her, she's like, oh yeah, okay, I'll just that's what I'll call them, the pantaloon people. So I don't know. I
Yeah.
think that's just
No,
really cool to help them.
I love it. It has a ring to it too, the pantaloon people.
Right in thought, Obi-Wan. We got to get that in the thought.
Yeah,
The
wearing
pantaloon,
pantaloons.
the pantaloon people are coming.
Yeah,
Yes,
I
we
should take
will.
a picture and show you. It's like you'll like when you see her, like, oh, okay, I think. But yeah, she's very talented. So hopefully, I don't know, maybe one day she'll be her art and her book will be on BB maybe with the
Yes.
curator tool, right? So that's I don't know, that's something to like think about in the future for her,
Oh,
maybe.
you gotta be having like just ideas in your head on me one with that curator tool, like because if it's coming to comics, it's gotta be coming to a collectible or something of that sort. And so, I have a few ideas on how to make a story as well. Maybe I'll tap you up for the art, but like, yeah, it's amazing on what's going on with this stuff. How our kids are very in depth to this kind of stuff as well. I love the fact that your daughter's 6 year old, man. That's just really cool. And I can't wait to see because they understand this stuff. I'm assuming your daughter understands the
Oh
digital
yeah.
age right here. I can't wait to see or hear more stories from you saying, like, oh, we did this, we incorporated this. My daughter wants to be a Twitter space host, Hinan. I was like, what? So you never
Let's
know. You
go.
never know. So, Omi-Wan, we have been going for an hour and a half. How are you doing in time?
Oh, I'm good. I'm available as long as you need me.
Oh, let's go. Let's go.
Let's go.
I'm gonna pivot a little bit, and I kind of wanted to talk a little bit about your fandom since we are in a digital collecting space as well. Are you more of a Star Wars guy? Are you like a DC person? Do you like Marvel? And I say the Star Wars because you basically have OMI-Juan in your name, and because of your past and all of your your hats that you wore in the past, I really feel like you are Obi-Wan Kenobi, right? You
That's
know.
so funny.
Pretty.
Yeah.
But yeah, what's your fandom like?
Uh, I'd have to say that Star Wars is definitely my first love for sure. I definitely grew up with the OG trilogy and those characters and um, yeah, so that's definitely was and always will be kind of like my foremost passion when it comes to fandom. Uh, but I will say that a lot of my storytelling comes from all the hours that I spent at my local comic book shop as a kid. Like I was that kid that used to beg my mom to take me to the comic book shop because I needed to go and pick up the latest issue of X-Men or Batman or like those were like my two big ones as a kid. And GI Joe. The GI Joe comic,
Yeah.
the X-Men comic and Batman I think were the three that I collected the most as a kid. And so yeah, that really was really what kind of cultivated, and it had to do with the fact that I started to read a lot more, right? Like the that format, like the pictures and and the panels and being able to like flow through a story fairly quickly and immediately have this not only like visualization but also filling in the blanks in your head was really kind of captivated me as a kid, and that was really what kind of brought me into where I am now, as far as like I think that kind of honed my storytelling, which ultimately ended up proving true when when it came to music. Like I took that like I was saying, storyboard approach, which I learned from comics, panel to panel to panel, in expressing my creativity. So that was really where I learned my love for Marvel and DC. But as far as like overall fandoms, I mean, I definitely love a lot of sci-fi. I am definitely a sci-fi guy for sure. The Matrix still is one of my favorite movies to this day. Like I loved, this year it was cool because I got to go for I think it was like the 25th anniversary or something like that
Oh,
of the
cool.
movie. Actually, yeah, was it the 20th? I think it was like the 25th anniversary. So I went to go see it again in the movie theater, and it was so cool for me because like, um, leaving the theater this year and leaving the theater the first time, like it felt this. I had that same kind of rush coming out of it. Like it was just amazing. Like that was one of those movies that incorporated so much of like philosophy and like deeper meaning that really throughout my life I've always had kind of an affinity for. So um, but I don't know. I mean, I have so many different things that I love to collect. I too am. You were talking about cryptoys earlier. I love collecting the cryptoys as well. Of course, Star Wars was the one that immediately called to me when they announced that they were doing the Star Wars figures. I was like, oh, I'm definitely collecting these. And then I talked about Batman, so I'm huge on candy as well. Love collecting on candy, a lot of the DC comics. McFarlane, of course, because of Batman as well. So I collect a lot of the McFarlane stuff. Um, yeah, I mean, it's just I do love collecting a lot of this stuff that I grew to love as a kid. As you were saying.
Favorite Star Wars movie?
Ooh, that's a tough one. I mean, it's definitely
Mm.
Empire for me. Um,
Ooh.
that was all because that was the first one that I went to see as a kid, was Empire Strikes Back. I was a little young for the first one, because I was 4 at the time, so I don't but yeah, by the time Empire came out I was about 8 at that point, so I definitely enjoyed watching that one. and still is the one that if anybody asks, immediately it's Empire Strikes Back for sure.
Yeah,
Nice.
that's like the Wrath of Khan for me because I'm a Star Trek guy, right? But like, you always ask like a true blue Star Wars guy from the '80s, like which one is their favorite. I've always heard Empire. Me specifically, I'm more of the Return of the Jedi type of guy.
Mm.
Not because of the Ewoks, but mainly because of how that story kind of like, they didn't really put a bow on it, but how it kind of ended. I really enjoyed that one the most.
Mm,
So,
true.
how about
And
you,
Yeah,
D?
that was the one
Go ahead.
that.
go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, D. I was just gonna say that one, Return of the Jedi, was where I really started doing a lot of my collecting. Like
Oh.
Empire is where I first kind of really like fell in love with Star Wars. But by the time Return of the Jedi came around, I was like, I had to have all the figures, all the space, all the vehicles, all the play sets. Like that was where
Yes.
my collecting journey really took off, was Return of the Jedi.
We need some digital play sets in this place. I mean, I want like a immersive Death Star where I can just like, go into rooms and that would be really awesome and stuff. What's your favorite
Well,
Star Wars movie, D?
um, I'm not sure. I mean, I watched. Are you thumbs downing me?
Not you, not you.
Oh, it's like rude.
Not a fan of Ewoks.
um, I'm not sure. Um, I'm not a huge Star Wars person. Um, and I'll probably get my movies mixed up, but I really enjoyed what is the one with Natalie Portman with
Oh, there was Phantom Menace, Attack of the
Hmm.
Clones, and
mm,
Revenge of the Sith.
Hmm.
maybe it's one of those. One of those. And I
Okay.
just thought like I'll go and find out because like I said, I'm terrible at these names. Um, but yeah, I thought she was really pretty in that movie. I mean, she still is till today. Um, and then when I was younger, when I went to my cousin's house, her dad is a huge Star Wars guy. So he had all the VHSs of
Hmm.
the movies, like all the old ones. And I was looking at him like, what are these movies? She's like, oh, those are like the original movies. I'm like, oh, but we could not touch them. Like we couldn't. Yeah, it was on the shelf, and it was like his collectible. I guess we couldn't touch him. Um, but yeah, I'm more of like a Star Trek person. Same with Hinano. But I do enjoy watching the Star Wars movie. I'm just like I said, I'm just not sure what the title was called on the ones that I really enjoyed. Um, I know the kid, she likes the yes, even the one that she likes, I don't know the title, but she
The
likes the
Force
one with
Awakens. She
the
likes The
Force
Force
Awakens.
Awakens.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
she really loves that one. Um, but what was I gonna say? Oh, I was gonna ask you, who is your favorite Batman?
Ooh, that's a great question. Um, I mean, of course, I love Keaton just because 80, I'm a big Batman 89 fan. Like that was one of the first, I like I remember going to see that movie when it came out and like just kind of being blown away by the world that Burton had created. And then just seeing the performance from Keaton always really kind of holds a special place in my heart. So I do love Michael Keaton Batman, but I will say that even some of the more recent iterations I've really enjoyed. I do love the Dark Knight trilogy. I think that Nolan did a fantastic job
Yes.
with
Mhm.
those. So it's kind of hard to argue, if somebody were to say that. And then even like, I've grown to kind of really like love the Ben Affleck version of Batman.
Same here,
Only
man.
only because like for me, like I feel like he's a little bit of an older Batman, right? And so, and I don't know, maybe just because now I'm a little bit older myself, that I'm like, okay, like if he's still out there doing it, like
Relate.
I can relate, So, but if you were to ask me, it would definitely be Keaton, just because that was the one that really kind of I don't know, just made it cool. Like for me, like immediately Batman became cool after that movie. So just because I
And
remember the Adam West Batman movie, right? Like in like the shows, right? And like so, like I'm like like Batman was like I was like I don't know if that's the same Batman
pow.
that I read, right? Like that's not the same one that I read in the comics, but I mean he is Batman, so that's cool. But yeah, Michael Keaton, I'm like okay, yeah, now it's cool. So
Oh man, both you and I can hang because those were the two Batmans that were my favorite, to be very honest. Is Keaton growing up, I remember watching Keaton in the theater. Loved Keaton, but I have a big affinity for Batfleck. I'm 100% behind you on that. I really feel like he was a more hardened Batman. He had
mhm.
more bruises. I felt like was more street level than that, and
Mhm.
he was kind of playing the role of like Captain America, where he was gathering everyone together.
Mhm.
But he wasn't Captain America, right? He was the complete opposite of Captain America. He was like a hardened man that's seen all kinds of crap throughout his day. And then there's things that we don't even know what happened, like what happened to Robin and all that stuff. So,
Right.
and I love the dynamic, at least on the Snyder side of it. I know a lot of people don't like Zack Snyder. I get it. But like Snyder's vision and the verse and Batman and Superman and that whole entire universe, I really enjoyed all the way
Yeah.
until the very end. I did not enjoy Batfleck in the recent Flash movie. I really feel like they threw him away in that movie, and that's kind of like
Mhm.
the last time we seen Batfleck. But yeah, 100% agree with you on both. So
Yeah, no, for sure. One of my favorite exchanges, as far as Batfleck goes, is that nightmare scene where he's talking with the Joker, right? Like in that little exchange, like you see so much about their dynamic and like what they've gone through, right? And as you were talking about, like you never really know what happened with Robin, right? And like just hearing that interaction between the two of them, like to this day, like is like one of my favorite scenes.
want to know what happened? you
Yeah,
know
like honestly, yeah, I want to know what happened. Yeah, for sure. So yeah,
Yeah, we might have to incorporate that in the story time. Have Junie finish off the story, but yeah,
okay.
um,
Yeah,
I'm really bummed about that. Go ahead, D.
no, I agree with you guys on your Batman picks. Also, when I was younger, and the one with George Clooney came out, I was like, oh, he's so handsome. So he was my favorite one at the
Mr.
time.
Freeze,
Yeah, when I was younger. But now looking back,
chill.
I'm like, yeah. So Keaton all the way. Yeah, like for me, when I was growing up, my brother was the one that collected all the cool stuff, the comics and collectibles, and he was heavy into Batman. That was his favorite, Keaton. So I guess in a way, I was influenced by him, and I enjoyed it. And we also liked watching after school on basic channels. The TV series. So that was really cool with the
Yes.
POW and yeah.
Yeah.
That's why in the emoji that I use the most is that boom. Because that's
Yeah.
like for me because I love DC and so that's the emoji I use up the most is because of that nostalgia for me. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that reminds me as a little kid when I used to spend some time with my grandma, I'd be watching the old, Adam West, Batman series. And
Yeah.
but that I mean I was young. I mean I was probably 4, 5, 6 years old, watching those and getting a kick out of it, of course. But um and then later on, once I started reading more comics, I'm like, wait, this isn't this like these seem like
Yeah.
not the same Batman. And then like as
Why is the guy in
eventually
the book cooler?
yeah, I'm like, this seems so much cooler than that guy that's like dancing around in tights.
But
Oh,
one thing I wanted to ask you too is I've seen like in your on your page that you've gone to like almost well a lot of the cons this year or maybe in the past few years, and I wanted to ask out of all the cons like what was the moment that like you might have met like a famous celebrity or like one someone like from your fandom? What was like a moment that stood out the most to you regarding that?
Ooh, good
Oh,
question.
nice. Good question. Yeah. Um, immediately what comes to mind, and one of my favorite cons that I'm looking forward to going to next year is and this also happened, funny, we're talking about Anaheim. I went to Star Wars Celebration in Anaheim.
Ooh.
And this was a
Mhm.
couple years ago, and I met Tamara Morrison. And as a kid growing up, like Boba Fett was always like my guy. Like I loved me some Boba Fett, and so to be able to kind of meet him in person, and he was of course so like you know um, easy to talk to, super uh, just I don't know, just he just gave off. I mean, a lot of like the Aloha vibes, right? Like just super kind of chill, like down to earth. Was very very thankful that I was there, and so it just made the whole experience super cool. And he had signed a couple things that I had brought with me, and so that was probably from like a comp perspective, the very first time that I was like, oh, I was so stoked to be able to meet somebody from my childhood, and somebody that I've always like a character that I've always loved, which is funny because like when I was first introduced to Boba Fett, it wasn't Timor Morrison, right? Like he didn't come
Yeah.
along until like the prequel series. But I mean, to this day, I mean, if I think Boba Fett, I think of him. So, yeah.
Mm.
Jake from Once Were Warriors, right? Get me some bloody eggs.
Right,
Oh.
exactly.
Anyway, yeah, I was like, oh, do they know what I'm talking about? So,
Yeah.
Awkward. Um,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
no. Um, yeah, I was looking at when they announced, New York Comic Con, and I know you went to that. I went on the website to see like who the artists and actors. Oh yeah, that's such a cool picture of you guys. Um, I was looking at all the lineup, and I saw a couple people that were from Battlestar Galactica. And because that's like really nostalgic for Hinano and I was like, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, I wish I could be there, like, and meet these people. But one day
Who
we'll
was the
make it there.
actor? Who was there, D?
Gata, what's his name?
Oh,
Alessandro.
Alessandro
I
something.
forget his
Yeah.
last name.
Yeah.
Yeah, but him. Um, and like there's like other people from Fallout, because I know we just recently watched the series. So I was like, wow, that's so cool. Yeah, like the lineup was insane. So yeah, one day I'll get
And
to
you know,
go.
it's funny, Omi-Wan, like when I met Dee, she wasn't a sci-fi nut, or at least she didn't show that in the surface. And so, like, normally on a Friday night, you would take your brand new girlfriend out to go have fun, right? You know, like the peas and show her in town. And I never did that. I said, hey, Friday nights is sci-fi Fridays. I don't go out on Friday nights. So what I usually do is watch TV from 7 to 9, and or no, no, it wasn't 7 to 9. It was 7 to 10, because you'd have like Stargate SG-1,
Mm.
Stargate Atlantis, and then you would have Battlestar Galactica. And I really thought she was gonna leave me, Obi-Wan. I thought, okay, this is it. You know what I mean? I'm setting the rules here, and yeah, it really draws really close to a point where like we would like make our TV dinners in a sense, and we would watch Sci-Fi Fridays, and it got us really close. And Battlestar Galactica was one of those shows where D and I, like we would recite the lines. We would know every episode. We would rewatch the episodes. Like it's like the Galactica on Vivi is one of our favorite pieces till this day. Isn't that right, D?
Yeah. Yes.
That's
100%.
awesome.
I know, nerds. Well, that brought us like together even more. Yeah, when he's like, "This is what I do." It's like I think that was like his signal for like either get out now or you're in here for the
It
long
was.
haul.
It was. Yeah.
But it's fun. Yeah.
And we did
That's
it
so
for a few
awesome.
years. We did it for a
Mhm.
few years. I think 4 or 5 years, until like Sci-Fi Friday stopped. Right. That was what we wouldn't go out on a Friday night. Only one. We go out Saturday night and Sunday night, but not Friday night. So
That's so funny. So I have a funny story. And I rem I think, well, one of my friends from the Navy, he had told me about Battlestar Galactica way back when, and he's like, "Bro, I think you should watch this show. I think you would really love this show." And I was like, I don't know." And he was like, "No,"
You're the
he's like, "Just
Navy.
yeah, yeah." He's like, he's like, "Totally, you should totally watch the show." And I was like, maybe." I was like, "I'll get around to it eventually, right?" Which of course I never did. And then years later, I it was another friend of mine that I talked to, and he's like, "Did you ever watch that show?" And I was like, "No, I always meant to, and I never did." He's like, "Bro, you have to watch it." And so I remember, I'm like, "Okay, I'm gonna watch it," and I forget what streaming service it was on, and I went to go to watch it, and like immediately once I started watching it, like they stopped showing them, and I was so bummed. I was like,
Ooh.
"Oh my god!" Like I just like now that I'm like ready to start watching this show, like now that like I could like the only way that I could watch it at that point is I'd have to either buy it per episode or buy the whole season. And I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I'm like ready to invest into a show that I really don't know if I'm gonna like yet." And so I at that point I was like, "Okay, I'm just gonna, maybe this is just not meant to be." Long story short is eventually I did end up, I think I forget who brought it back on, and they put all the shows on or all the seasons, and I watched all of them, and I powered through the whole series as much as I could. I know that it's kind of hard to, because there's all these different kind of, there's the movies and then the shows, and like they kind of have this like weird kind of storyline. But
Yeah.
I did my best to kind of watch it as much as I could, so I did watch all the season. I watched the first movie and whatnot. But I say all that to say this is, so I'm watching it, right? And at this point, I had already started watching, The Mandalorian with my little girl, and I'm watching Battlestar Galactica, right? And she's like, "Dad, why is Lady Bo-Katan on this show?" And she,
Oh,
because she saw Katie
right.
Sackhoff,
Yeah.
and I was
That's
like,
cool.
"Oh," I was like, "No," I was like, "This is yeah," I was like, "Yeah, no, you're right. That's Lady." Lady Bo-Katan. So it was so funny because it was just one of those moments where she was like, "Why is Lady Bo-Katan on this show?" And I was like, "Oh."
Can you imagine, like, because you're lucky, you got to power through it and go to every episode. We had to wait a week and then wait seasons and wait through the
Yeah,
summer, and
Oh
sometimes
yeah.
even have to wait a year to watch that whole entire thing. And then we would rewatch some of the stuff just to kind of like, stay up to date and stuff like that. But
yeah,
like, I love the fact that you were able to like power through it and watch it in its entirety, because in that sense it's even better, because
oh
Hmm.
there
yeah,
were times like where it's like, well, shit, what happens next? They get
Yeah.
dumped on a planet and they get invaded, and like, what happened, right? And
totally.
like, and you can relate to all those characters. Yeah, that show, and then the show Lost. I
Mhm.
Hmm.
really, well, I mean, obviously it was filmed here in Hawaii. One of my good friends, rest in love, he was a grip on the show, so I was able to like go to the wrap up parties, and I met some of the cast. I actually got to hang out with Terry O'Quinn. Let's just say he's a very organic man. I'll leave it at that. And it was a good time, though. It was a really good time. And yeah, I love the fact that we can relate with some of the fandoms right there. It's
Yeah,
pretty
for
cool.
sure.
Yeah, it's really cool, and I know the kid there was I can't remember the either the show or the movie that she saw, and there was a character that we Hinano and I knew from an older movie, but it's just funny like the younger generations now see like the actors and actresses that we grew up in with like the movies that we've seen, but now they're like in a newer show. And it's
Mhm.
like, no, they really weren't originally who you're looking at now. They were originally, who we used to watch. Um, but yeah, it's just a different dynamic. But yeah, speaking on Comic Con and decons and stuff, I will one day make it to where I can see one of my favorite like fandoms in real life one day.
Yeah,
But
it's awesome. I hope you
yeah,
can.
just yeah, we're thinking maybe next year because it was between San Diego and New York for next year, and I think we're leaning more towards New York. And for you, that was your first time
That
not
was
in
my
New York, but
first.
your first. Comic-Con in New York.
Right. Yeah, that was my first New York Comic Con, and it was an awesome experience. And I will say that I going into this year, and even as recent as like the summer, I didn't think I was going to be able to make it. Like I was thinking, um, I was lucky enough to be able to make San Diego Comic Con, which was awesome. And then I ended up going to D23 a couple weeks later, which was super cool as well. And then I
Yeah.
thought at that point, I was like, okay, like this is probably going to be my cons for the year. But going to D23, and speaking with a lot of the folks there, and David specifically, he told me, he's like, you're really going to want to go to New York. And I was like, really? He's like, no, you're really going to want to go
Hint,
to New
hint.
York. And I'm like, I was like, all right, David. I was like, if I go, and he's like, yeah, yeah, yeah. He's like, you definitely want to go. So I was like, all right, well, if I was like, I promise I will be there. So I made it all work, and I went, and I had a blast. It was amazing. Just the whole experience. I was exhausted. I won't say that I won't. It was definitely exhausting, but it was so worth it. Like top to bottom. From the con to all the other events that were happening outside of the con to being able to spend time with the fam, so to speak, was just amazing. And then the food, you gotta love, hitting up all the local New York spots and getting all the from whether it's the pizza or the bagels in the morning or a slice of New York cheesecake or hitting up one of the hot dog stands, like all this stuff. I was like,
She's
yes,
salivating.
I was
I'm
all about it.
salivating.
Yes. So I had a blast in New York. And actually, you showed that picture, which was funny. That picture was right when I had got my gold and silver logo. So
Nice. Big
Nice.
congrats to
yeah,
you, man. Well deserved right there. See, you are a content creator. Let's go.
yeah, it
That's
was
what I was.
awesome.
So I'm wondering, is that because I read your post that you said you were knighted OMI-Juan 263. I was like looking like, what is this 263 thing? So is that your number? Your
That's the mint
number?
number that I
Okay.
Okay.
got.
Okay, it makes
Yeah.
sense now. I was like, what is then like is this does that mean something Earth 263? I was like, what is this
She's all
thing? Okay.
sleuthing.
I was.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, so that's so cool. That's
No, and
really
that
cool.
was that was David. Like he, because immediately once he gave me the card, and then I redeemed it, and he was like, "Well, what's the mint number? What's the mint number?" And so once I finally got the mint number, he's like, "Okay." He's like, "From this point forward, you will now be Omi-Wan 263." I was like, "Okay, that's what
That's
it
so
is."
awesome.
That's cool, man.
Yeah.
Real
Oh,
quick, Acrolite has a question. She says, is Juan excited to attend the next meetup? What is the thing he's looking forward to the most?
cool. Good
Oh,
question.
yeah. Well, I mean, like you said, I don't know, Vegas in a couple of weeks will be the next meetup, and I'm super excited to be able to just like it's so cool because I feel like this has really kind of been a meetup that isn't necessarily surrounding any event in particular. I mean, I know it's decon, right? But like I feel like this is one of those things where like even if we don't go to decon, we're all gonna end up hanging out with each other, right?
Oh,
So it's
for
just
sure.
so
Yeah.
cool to be able to like this is kind of like a full circle moment for me, right? Like because in a lot of ways, we were talking about how our origin story was decon, 2022. So, coming back full circle and being able to like share another kind of decon experience, and it just being so much more about the community and the connections, and being able to like sit and have a conversation about this, that, or the other. Like that's really going to be cool for me. So I'm super excited for looking forward to that.
Oh man, me too. Like and that's really, I love how you said full circle right there, because I didn't even look at it that way. I mean, we origin story 2022 decon, 2024 decon Vegas, no VV there, but we are going to hang out, we're all going to have a good time, and I bet you the FOMO is going to be real, Omi-Wan. Like it already
Mhm.
is. If you've noticed the Vegas chat, there are way more people in there
Yeah.
before, but I have a feeling, and just call it a feeling, in the next 2 weeks more will come.
Yeah, no, it's so true. Because I mean, the whole reason why I went to Anaheim was not for the community because I didn't know anybody. It was for Vivi.
Mhm.
But this time,
Yeah,
like, I'm going not for Vivi. I'm going for the community, and so it's just
yeah.
so cool.
It's funny how that works out, right? It's like,
Yeah,
yeah. I think like the people that we didn't get to meet 2 years ago, and we're meeting them soon. Sorry, he's really wailing in
Yeah,
the
it
background.
was
Sorry.
we were requested to see if we were done soon because she's having a hard time with him.
Oh,
So
yeah,
okay. I'll wrap it up.
we're probably gonna have to wrap
Yes.
it up soon.
Okay. Yeah. So I think from when we kind of sort of didn't really meet each other in 2022, I think this is what you said, full circle. Now that we kind of are growing with each other over the past 2 years, it's just gonna be great when we actually meet in real life and just
yeah,
talk like we've never stopped 2 years ago. So yeah, looking forward to that.
for sure.
Oh,
Yeah, we'll be able to share those long-awaited embraces and give each other a hug and be like, "Hey,
you're
this
getting a
is
big
two
hug,
years in
man.
the
You're getting a
making."
big
Yeah.
fat hug.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
for sure.
It's gonna be so worth it. Yeah, we're looking forward to that. Go ahead, Inanna. You
Oh
have
no no
something
no!
to say?
I'm no 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 nothing
Oh,
at all. I'm getting these giveaways ready. No, keep
okay.
going.
Yeah, I mean, not to cut it short. Well, it's not short, 2 hours, but not to cut it any shorter. OMI-Juan, I know our kid is wailing, but was there anything else that you might want to touch up on, or chill or talk about before we go,
Or ask us
or
anything.
ask
Now's
us?
the
Yeah.
time, man.
Yeah, um, I mean, there's nothing really that I want to shill per se. I guess the biggest thing that I would love to ask both of you, right, is from a content creator's perspective, right? Like, I know Hanano, you do a lot of, not only these spaces, as far as like Aloha Fridays and all of your YouTube things, but also you do create a lot of NFTs. Like, what is the things that you guys really like doing the most? Is it like the YouTube conversation interviews, or like, Hanano with your NFTs or music, or like what are the things that you love from a content creator perspective, love doing the most?
This show right here, Aloha Friday, is my favorite out of everything that we do for the podcast. And the second would probably be making AI music, but doing this specific show on Friday is one of my favorite things to do. I don't know if you've noticed when we first started this podcast, it was an interview channel only. We never really covered digital collecting. We never covered drops. We covered you guys. This is a community channel, and so I'm a porgy. Like once you get me started, I cannot stop talking, and I'll lose myself too in the conversation. I don't know if you. I'll get into tangents, and I was like sometimes like, where the hell did you go? That's me. I'm that guy. But I love doing this specific format, this show, talking with people like you, having people learn more about us. I really feel that a lot of people can get to know people more. And it doesn't matter if you're a futter, moon boy, or whatever label someone puts on you. Um, I love to get to know people in a more personal level. And I don't care who you are. You know what I mean? Anyone and everyone is welcome to come up here and talk with us because that's the type of people we are. We just want to get to know people more. We want to bring the community in more. Out of all the content creation we do, Aloha Friday, talking with people like you, OMI-Juan, having the fam get to know people like you, OMI-Juan, that is my favorite thing to do.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I'm not trying to copy Hinana, but he took my answer. Um, yeah, Aloha Friday is it's like our way of like sharing like a part of us here in Hawaii with the rest of the world. If you can't come here to Hawaii physically, you can see our lovely faces digitally or virtually. Yeah, and just getting to know people. It's so interesting. Like we can talk about different things on spaces, um, but I mean, you can connect with that person too. But I think when we have them on Aloha Friday, it's like more intimate, and especially like when people are live in the chats and just interacting with each other. and with whoever's the special guest, you know, getting to know them a lot more on a personal level. I think it's yeah, it's just what I enjoy, like what I enjoy doing as well. Yeah, it's the whole connection thing and just sharing our Aloha spirit with, you know, whoever wants to have it. Yeah.
I love that.
And I
That's
really
awesome.
want to hone that on the Aloha spirit, Omi-Wan. When we first started doing this, that's one thing D and I noticed that was missing from this space. And I know a lot of people probably trip out on D and I, but there's a thing called the Aloha spirit here in Hawaii where um, we feel is missing from this space, and that is like, you know, kindness, you know, camaraderie, uh welcome, you know what I mean? A lot of people sometimes don't feel welcomed. We want to try to like bridge that gap and break down the walls for people that don't experience that type of stuff. We named this show Aloha Friday because here in Hawaii, Aloha Friday is a thing. It's an actual thing. So like people are doing all kinds of stuff right now tonight on Aloha Friday. They could be barbecuing with their friends. They could be out watching a movie with their girlfriend or significant other. They could be helping their grandma. They could be baking a cake. Aloha Friday is basically it's the end of the week. Relax, chill, have a good time, talk story, or do whatever you need to do to enjoy your weekend. The weekend is here, and it's basically what's the term that we like to use here, D? Um, no work till
Uh,
Monday, right?
Oh
It's
yeah,
Aloha Friday,
Pauhana.
no work
Yeah.
till Monday. So
Yeah.
that's something that we wanted to incorporate and really hone in on a Friday night for everyone, and just try to give people a little bit of the Hawaiian style. That's why you always say it's low key, laid back. You guys hear reggae music because we're giving you the full frontal of what that is here. People are doing it right now.
Nice. I love it. Yeah, appreciate you inviting me to your Sci-Fi Friday.
Let's
Right?
go.
Yeah, let's
I
go.
love that.
That's so
Oh
cool.
man, who is this? Oliver Bell. It's somebody new. What's up, Oliver Bell? Let's go.
The poodle or
And then we got
something. Yeah.
Nas. But Omi-Wan, this has been Aloha Friday. It's been really great to have you on. We would love for you to come back. I feel like we have not even scratched the surface with you. We did not even follow these cliff notes at all. We went on tangents, and that's usually what happens
Nice.
here on the podcast. But we would love to have you back. I would love to actually do a THON space and get you guys all here and kind of talk about that kind of stuff, or we do it on the THON channel. But like I said, I'm very Portuguese, but
Yeah.
I just love doing this type of stuff, and it's really, really cool having you here. And thank you for giving us your time. I'm going to get these giveaways ready, and before we get started on the giveaways, I want to also show you this right here. We're going to be giving you this tonight, Omi-Wan, because basically this fits you
Cool.
very well. So you're going to get
Yes.
this Obi-Wan Kenobi Ben right here, and then we're also going to give you one of our True Podcast slabs that was created by Davo. And I think you're a badge holder, right? For the podcast. Am I right?
I believe so. Yeah, I believe
Mhm.
so.
Yeah. Okay. So you're because you're a badge holder, this gives you extra utility into our giveaways, and we're giving away a Star Wars comic. I haven't seen you enter that, so like if you have some time, go and enter this giveaway right here. This goes for everyone else watching the podcast tonight. Uh, Tonight is your last chance. Tomorrow, I'm closing the giveaways. This is in our Discord. This is for True Podcast badge, pass, and digital hat owners right here. If you're in our Discord and you see that the channel's open and you can enter this, that means you're a qualified person to enter. First place, you get to win the Star Wars slab and also that Mandalorian #1. Second place gets a Star Wars set of Cryptoys. Third place gets a McFarlane Toys Digital Dragon, as well as a True Podcast slab that gives you utility into future
Mm.
giveaways right here. So, Omi-Wan, please, if you can, enter this giveaway in our Discord. And like I said again, this goes to you, and this will go to you as well. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast tonight.
Oh, thank you, my friend. Yeah, that's awesome. I will. I would definitely be joining that giveaway
Yes.
because I'd love that comic.
Let's go. First
So fitting,
appearances
right?
in that comic, and we'll need us say more. But that's not all, everyone. So for the people that entered hashtag Aloha Friday, and Omi-Wan, you can do that as well. You're gonna have a chance to win this rare Cryptoy of Darth Vader right here. And you're going to be able to also have a chance to win this podcast ticket. I know people have been wondering, why are we giving away podcast tickets? We are going to be doing a burning giveaway comes soon, either next month or Christmas. I might wait till Christmas to make it big, but we're gonna have a burning giveaway where you're gonna have to burn certain assets in order to enter. So first
Mhm.
place, second place, and then third place is our Neon Paradise Project Wave Rider here, which is the animated version, and this also will come with a free airdrop once I've dropped all of these legend variants right here. So first place, second place, third place, and then also OMI-Juan. These two are for you. And while I get this giveaway ready for everyone else, OMI-Juan, if you could give us maybe some final thoughts and some closing words from you.
Can you hear us?
Oh, did we lose him? Oh,
Hello?
we may have lost OMI-Juan.
Are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Do you
Oh
hear me?
shoot.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah, that
can
was
hear you
like the
now.
longest pause from you. So
It's
I
too
don't know
late.
if you knew it. We Oh, anyways, if you can hear us
No, no.
now, closing thoughts, OMI-Juan, go for it.
Yeah, no. Thank you guys once again. Appreciate the invite. This has been fun. I certainly would love to come back. I think there's definitely a lot more that we could talk about. And as far as closing thoughts, I mean, I just keep doing what you guys are doing. I love the show, love the format, and can't wait to see you guys in a couple weeks.
Awesome. Thank you.
Awesome,
Yeah,
man.
thank you very much for your time. I know you've been busy doing other stuff before this today. So I appreciate you and your time and coming on and just sharing, your personal story, how you first, where you originated in the space. And it's just nice to get to know you a little bit more. And I'm sure we'll continue the conversation in exactly 2 weeks. Very exciting.
Yes,
Yeah. So yeah, hope you have a good weekend. Enjoy your weekend, relax or whatever you're gonna do. Yeah, just take some time out because in 2 weeks it's gonna be crazy, or maybe not.
let's go.
Yeah,
Yeah,
OMI-Juan, let us know if you want anything from Hawaii. Hit us up in the DMs. I don't know if you're a coffee drinker or anything like that, or if you're like into Mac nuts, but let us know.
Okay,
yeah.
yeah, we'll do.
DM me.
DM. And then, guys, so that has been the giveaway. The giveaways are closed. And so, first place will win that rare Darth Vader. Second place will win the golden podcast ticket. And third place will win the Neon Paradise Project legend variant of the Wave Rider. So, let's go and let's see who is going to be the first winner. We have 16
Good
entrants
luck.
tonight. Good luck, everybody. See who's going to be the winner tonight. The comic guy. Let's go, man. These
Nice.
hands are for
Nice.
you. You have won the Darth Vader Rare Cryptoid. Big congratulations to the comic guy. He was on Get to the Comics this morning with Osmond Collect 63, and they did a really good rendition of, I believe, the first appearance of Null.
Mm-hmm.
So congratulations to you, comic guy. But we're not done. This is for the Golden Podcast ticket for the burning event that is coming soon to the podcast itself. Let's see who's going to get this tonight. Nas is the winner. Let's
Nas.
go,
Let's
Nas.
go.
Big congratulations to you, brother.
Put that
Let's
down.
go. And hopefully we're going to see you in a few weeks, Nas. I heard that you may or may not make it. And I know it's your birthday, so it would be great to see you again. But for the last prize of the night, guide, which is the Neon Paradise Project Wave Rider, which will come with a free airdrop in the coming weeks. Let's find out who is going to win this. And big congratulations to the winners tonight. Khalees,
Ali.
let's go.
Let's go.
Congratulations, fam.
Awesome.
And that is the winners tonight, everyone. It's been an awesome time hanging out with everyone on Aloha Friday. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. All 120 of you watching right now on X
Oh
and
wow.
YouTube. And D, close out the show.
Yeah, thank you very much, Omi-Wan, for coming on. Appreciate you very much. Thank you, everybody who tuned in to also support us and support Omi-Wan. Hope everyone has a great weekend as well. And like I always say, just support one another and be kind to one another always. And yeah, we'll see everybody hopefully in real life soon. If not, we'll catch you in one of the many spaces that the community has every day. So
No,
one way or
we're gonna
another.
no. We're catching them
What?
tomorrow. Tomorrow, you guys, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard
Oh,
Time. You need to make it to THON. THON story time tomorrow. X Spaces. That's where you need to head after this. Mark it in your calendars. Tomorrow, THON Spaces. You got Dave. You got Morgan. You got the head writer here who is in our presence, OMI-Juan, and we're going to be telling some really cool stories tomorrow. You never know who's going to show up tomorrow. Isn't that right, OMI-Juan? We have no clue who's going to be showing up tomorrow, but it should be a good time. And we want all of you guys to continue the good times and follow us there tomorrow. So everyone, mark that on your calendars, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Check your local listings in X Spaces for the THON space tomorrow, because we're all going to be there. And everyone watching right now, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate everyone for tuning in every single time. Until the next time, everyone, take care and aloha.
The
hi.
Aloha spirit spreads far and wide. Kick back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Aloha Friday, it's our kind of night, where the stars align and everything